Hey everybody, welcome back to Responsibly Bourbon. I'm DMC from Louisville, Kentucky. Today I'm doing a quick hit review of Old Fitzgerald Prime Bourbon. So, Old Fitzgerald Bourbon is steeped in all kinds of bourbon history. This, it says right here on the bottle, since 1849. It's definitely known that it was being distilled in Frankfort, Kentucky as early as 1870. Originally, it was pot distilled bourbon, one of the few doing that. They even have a little logo of a pot still right there on the logo. It does say trademark first registered in 1884. And this was distilled there up to and through Prohibition. So it was, the distillery was one of the few in the country that was giving a license to distill during Prohibition. Now, parallel to that, W.L. Weller and Sons, a liquor distributor, was distributing liquor for the Stitzel distillery. And W.L. Weller basically created the wheated mash bill by perfecting the ratios of adding some wheat to the bourbon mash bill instead of rye. So W.L. Weller was distributing whiskey in the late 1800s, and working for him was a gentleman named Pappy Van Winkle, Julian Van Winkle. They were distributing up to Prohibition, and during Prohibition, both the Stitzel distillery and the Weller distributorship were granted licenses to also distill and distribute during Prohibition, ones of the few. Right at the end of Prohibition, Pappy Van Winkle acquired the Old Fitzgerald brand, and he went into partnership with Stitzel and Weller and created the Stitzel Weller Distillery in Chablais, Kentucky, just outside of the Louisville city limits. So the Stitzel Weller Distillery was opened in 1935, and it was making, obviously, like Weller bourbon, which is a wheated mash bill bourbon, but they also added a whisper of wheat to the Old Fitzgerald mash bill, so Old Fitzgerald became a wheated bourbon also. The Stitzel Weller Distillery was commonly known as the Old Fitzgerald Distillery, so they still have a smokestack there, a large brick smokestack that says Old Fitzgerald on the side of it. But anyways, they made Old Fitzgerald bourbon there up until the distillery was closed in 1991, 1992. And then the brand was purchased by Heaven Hill in 1999, who started producing it at the Bernheim distillery they had acquired here in Louisville, Kentucky, after the fire in 1996 had destroyed their distillery in Bardstown. So Old Fitzgerald's been made by Heaven Hill since 1999. This particular bottle here, the Prime Bourbon, comes in at 80 proof. So this is an entry-level proof of this. In 2012, Heaven Hill introduced Larceny Bourbon Whiskey, which is the same wheated mash bill as Old Fitzgerald, but they're marketing it with a little higher proof, 92 proof. And they just went after the whole marketing campaign of introducing this new line of whiskey, and it's been doing very well for them. So Old Fitzgerald basically got relegated to the bottom shelves. It had its heyday back in the 1940s, 1950s for sure, but it's a classic bourbon. They do release a bottle and bond version of this a couple times a year, and that obviously comes in at 100 proof. And the age statement on that is usually pretty high up there. So, as much as, as little as 7 or 8 years up to now 15, 16, 17 year releases on the bottle and bond. Old Fitzgerald and for the last few years, it now comes in a nice cut glass decanter, which has become a real collector's item for people to get a hold of that decanter bottle, Old Fitzgerald bottle and bond. Those aren't cheap. I mean, I think the 7 or 8 years might have been as little as $75, $80. But certainly when you start getting up to the 11, 14, 15 plus years, it jumps up to $150, $200 plus very quickly on those. This Old Fitzgerald Prime, as I mentioned, 80 proof, is only a $10 bourbon. Now, it's not distributed nationwide, I do not believe. It may be a Kentucky-only bourbon, but possibly in the surrounding states adjacent to Kentucky. So, but you know, like I say, I can find this usually for around $10 in local liquor stores. You know, it might be as much as $12, $14 some places, I'm sure, but definitely an entry-level bourbon. All right, let me give you a quick review on it. I'm going to give it a nose, give it a taste. On the nose, I'm smelling some oak, smelling some vanilla. A little bit of sweetness with that vanilla there. But also smelling a baked bread aroma on that. But it's pretty light aroma. Something that's not overpowering, you know, fairly light. Go ahead and give it a taste. Cheers. All right, on the taste, I'm getting some oakiness on the taste too, a little bit of drying oakiness, but I'm getting some caramel sweetness, so it definitely has some sweetness there. No spice initially, but on the finish, you know, there's a little bit of slight warmth going down on the finish, and the spiciness comes just a little tingle on the back of the tongue, edges of the tongue. Very, very nice. Yeah, very nice. It's got some classic bourbon notes there. It's not harsh at all. Very, very easy drinker. This would be a great bourbon on a hot summer day to sit outside on the porch or under a tree or something and sip in the shade. I can see that being a nice, easy bourbon go down. All right, everybody. Hope you like what you saw here. If you did, hit that like button. Leave me some comments down below if you've had this before, if you've never seen this before. I'd like to know where you can find it, what you think of it. You know, it's not gonna change your world or anything. It's like I say, it is definitely pretty much an entry level bourbon, but it's got a very nice taste, and the price point is spot on. So appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button on the way out. But remember, everybody, all bourbon is whiskey, but all whiskey is not bourbon. The best bourbon comes from Kentucky. Cheers.